Hello everyone, welcome to Amy's Bookshelf. Okay, so if you saw my book tour video, I'll link it above. It was a really popular video, so thank you everyone who watched it. I hope you enjoyed. But it made me sort of think about all the books I own and think about how I should probably unhaul some of them. So on TikTok last year, I counted how many books I have, and I think in the past I have also counted how many of those I have not read, and it was a pretty high number. So in this video I'm going to count all of the books I have again. I'm going to tell you how many of them I have read and how many of them are unread, and then I'm going to try and unhaul at least 10, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's hard. I find unhauling books really hard because I think, oh gosh, what if I want to read that in the future? What if I want to use that for a post, or like, I don't know, I give it to a friend? I find it very hard to let go of them. So 10 I think is a quite ambitious number, even if you don't think it is, but I will try my best. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you're not too horrified by how many of these books I haven't read yet. But as we know, reading books and buying books are two separate hobbies. So moving on. Okay, I'll do a little time lapse of me counting all of them, and I'll tell you the number, and then I will do a little time lapse of me counting how many of them I have and haven't read, and then we will get on to the unhauling. Okay, so to do some maths, in that first shelf we have 90 books in total. 50 of them I've read, 40 of them I haven't read. That's a pretty bad start, I think. That's almost half and half. So we'll come back to that later about whether I'm going to unhaul any of them. Moving on to shelf number 2. Okay, so shelf number 2 I think is much better. I have 228 books in total, 156 of them are read and 72 are unread. Better than the first one, I think. Still not great, but better, so that is optimistic. Again, better. So in total I have 237 books on that shelf, 146 of them are read and 91 of them are unread. So still better than shelf 1, promising, and we will move on to the last shelf. Okay, so the last one, which is hardbacks, there are 69 in total. I've read 35 of them and I haven't read 34 of them, so very 50-50. That shelf actually does include quite a lot of my partner's books, but I am including that in this because most of the books that he owns I probably would read. A lot of them are autobiographies, but they are quite interesting. It's just not really like a priority read for me, but I will include them because they are still on my bookshelf. Okay, so that is everything here. There were a few like dotted around that I'm just going to go quickly count up because I want to include them in the total. The only books that this won't include are my collections. So I have a set of the Penguin Modern Classics, which are the little ones, which are in another room, and then I also have a separate set of classics downstairs, which is like a complete set. I'm not going to unhaul any of them, so for the purposes of this video I'm not going to include those, so it'll just be everything in here and then the few miscellaneous ones that I will go count now. Okay, moment of truth, I have done some maths. So in total, again, like I said, not including those collections downstairs, I have 644 books. 392 of them are read and 252 of them are unread. As a percentage, 61% of the books I own I have read and 39% of them I have not read. Do you know what? That's actually not as bad as I was expecting, because it's quite a lot more than half, which I think I'm happy with. I don't know what that's like compared to like everybody else, whether that's bad or good, but you know, it's better than I thought it was going to be, so I'm taking the win. I did also, as well as those collections, there were some I didn't count, like I've got some coffee table books that are like gardens and recipes. I've got a lot of pattern books. I've got some books down there which are like magazines, catalogues. I haven't included any of them because I kind of dip in and out of them. They're not like books I would sit down and read cover to cover, so I haven't included them. But all of, like, you know, my paperbacks, my hardbacks, my fiction, a lot of non-fiction, I've included all of those, and yeah, 61% of my collection I have read. So like I said, I'm happy with that. Let me know if you think that's good or bad in the comments. So now what I'm going to do is go through everything again and find at least 10 books that I want to unhaul. I think this is going to be achievable. I think I'm actually going to end up doing more than 10. So I'm optimistic. Wish me luck. Okay, so I think, I have done very well. I'm very proud of myself. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Fantastic. 12 books here, and then there is another 5 I'll move on to in a minute. I'm just going to quickly run through the 12 that I have chosen and why I think I'm going to unhaul them. First up, The Rosie Project by Graham Simmerson. I actually have another copy of this. I bought this one for my granny in a charity shop and somehow it ended up back on my shelf, so I'll just donate it back to the charity shop. Then Carol by Patricia Highsmith. To be honest, it's the movie cover. I don't want the movie cover. I haven't been like really drawn to read this book anyway, so I think if I'm going to read it, I may as well buy a nicer cover than the movie one. No one likes the movie one. Then This Love by Danny Atkins. I've had this a little while. I got this from a charity shop. It's a romance, which normally I really like romance, but I've just not been drawn to it, and I've had it like 2 years and I've not picked it up. It's quite long. It sounds very basic. So I think I'm just better off unhauling it. My opinion with books is if I really want to read it, I can just buy another copy. They're not that expensive, so it's not the end of the world, but I don't think I'll be buying another copy of that. Then Starter for 10 by David Nichols. I've not actually read this. I'm pretty sure I borrowed this from a friend literally when I was 17 and I never gave it back. Also, it's a horrible length. That's a normal paperback. It's like the proof size, or like the, I don't know, it's a horrible size, so it doesn't fit. I have to put this on my hardback shelf, which is annoying because it's not a hardback. So I just don't think I want it. Again, I've not been drawn to read it, and I had it since I was like 17. That's nearly 10 years and I haven't read it. I don't think it's happening. Let's unhaul it. Then Making It Up As I Go Along by Marianne Keyes. I thought this would sound interesting. It's literally about writing by author Marianne Keyes, and to be honest, I still think it sounds interesting, but again, I've just not reached for it. I got it in a charity shop probably 2 years ago, and I just don't see myself reaching to read it, so I think I should just unhaul it. Then I think I've got two books, A Spark of Light and The Book of Two Ways by Jodi Picoult. I can't remember which way you pronounce it. I've read probably 3 books, or maybe 2 books by her, with mixed results. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. And to be honest, she's a very popular author, and when I read books, I really do like to try and read from like underrated authors, from translated authors, from like authors people wouldn't have heard of. So I just don't feel that I'm going to reach for these anytime soon, because I do try and focus on reading those books, like I said. And I'm sure somebody in a charity shop would love to pick them up, so I'm doing everyone a service. So those 2, then Us Cross by David Nichols. Again, I think I bought this for my granny in a charity shop and then it ended up back on my shelf. It's not that I wouldn't read this book, but I watched the TV adaptation. I think it was on the BBC maybe like 18 months ago, and because I watched that, I just don't think I'm probably going to read the book, so I just don't think there's any point in me having it. Then Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. I remember trying to read this probably 5 years ago and I was so confused, and so I think ever since then I've been put off, and I just don't think it's going to happen, so I don't think there's any point in holding on to it. I really loved Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which is by Jonathan Safran Foer, but I just don't see myself reaching for this. I definitely bought this while I was still at school, when I like really was just getting into reading, and if I've had it that long and I've not read it, it's probably not going to happen, so unhauling. Then The Godmothers by Camille Aubrey. So I actually did an ad for this. I think it was HarperCollins, and I really enjoy doing ads with publishing companies, and I only ever accept books that I think I'm going to enjoy, but sometimes they send me them, I enjoy them, I think it would be nice to recommend them, but I just don't love them, and I think this is where that book falls into. I definitely think I was right for the ad. I'm glad I did it because I wanted to promote it to people. It's not that I accepted a book I knew I was going to hate, and I didn't hate it, but I just don't think there's any reason I need to hold on to it, so I will unhaul that one. And then the final two, first off, Feliciaman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser Akner. I read this 3 years ago and hated it with a burning passion, so I really need to justify to myself why I still have it, and I don't think I can justify it. I've included it in a few reels and posts of like books I think are overrated or books I hated, blah blah blah, but I think it's about time I just get rid of it, because I also don't want to give it to any of my friends. I sometimes hold on to books even if I don't like them, because I think one of my friends will really like them, so I'll give it to them, but I do not want to recommend this book to anybody, so I am unhauling it officially. Also good to get rid of a hardback. And then the final one as part of this group is Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which is the buddy read for January for my book club, and it is actually my first DNF of the year. I don't think I've actually said that on Instagram, although by the time this video goes out I probably will have said, but oh gosh, it was just so boring and like so self-indulgent. It felt very, I don't want to say American because that feels offensive to Americans, but I think as a British person it did feel very American, so I just couldn't connect to it, I couldn't relate to it. I didn't really like the voice, I didn't really understand the point of the book. I wanted it to be more like, have more concrete advice maybe, but for me I just couldn't take away anything, so I'm going to unhaul it. Okay, so that is the group of, I think I said 12. So very happy with all of those. Gonna donate them to a charity shop. I think that is a success for me. However, the additional ones that I may unhaul are these. So this is the Twilight series. It's in a nice box. Yeah, now I bought this probably 2 years ago because I had never read Twilight. I'd seen the films, but obviously Twilight is a hugely successful book franchise, so I wanted to give it a go. I wanted to know what the hype was about, and I bought this lovely little set online. I read the first one, I think I got halfway through the second one, and since then I've never picked any of them up, and I think I really have to ask myself, why am I holding on to these? I'm going to keep them for now because, for the sole reason that I think it would be quite interesting to do a video about them. I could maybe do a reading vlog of me reading them, giving a bit of a running commentary about what I think. And yeah, I think for that reason I'll hold on to them for now, but this can be a good moment for me to say to myself, if this time next year I haven't done that video and I haven't read them, I should unhaul them. And I think that's a good thing to say. So I did the 12, which was more than I said I was going to do because I only said 10. And then these are going to be the 5 that I know I will definitely unhaul this time next year if I haven't read them. But let me know if you think they're really worth holding on to. If you're a real Twilight stan, then yeah, do fight for them in the comments. Wonderful. Okay, that is the end of the video then. I hope you've enjoyed. Like I said, I'm pleasantly surprised that I've read 61% of the books on my shelf. I think that's actually quite good, seeing as I know I buy a lot of books and then don't always read them immediately. So yeah, if you have a lot of unread books, let me know if you're just as guilty as I am. But like I said, very proud of myself. I've unhauled 12. I'll be taking them to the charity shop. So yeah, successful, I think. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel and please like this video if you did enjoy it, and look out for some videos in the future. If you're subscribed, then you'll be able to keep up to date with all the videos I have coming out. Yeah, and I will see you next time. Bye!